The goal for this project was to find a simple method for adding a forged carbon fiber lining to a glass guitar slide. To begin, I cut a piece of standard finish forged carbon fiber fabric to size, slightly larger than the inside of the slide. Also, the glass was cleaned with isopropyl alcohol to remove fingerprints and dust for good adhesion and a clean cosmetic finish. The first method I tried was laying the fabric face down on peel ply and applying epoxy resin. A backing layer of peel ply was added before removing the front sheet. The process did not work well with such a small piece of fabric, and some of the chopped material stayed stuck to the front sheet. Attempts to roll the resin-soaked fabric along with the thin plastic backing also failed, so I scrapped this and started over with a new piece of fabric. This time, the dry fabric was rolled and inserted into the slide with the help of a Sharpie to get it into place. Resin was poured down into the slide a little at a time and pressed into the fabric until it saturated all the way through to the front. Applying heat helped to decrease the viscosity and pop any air bubbles. A smaller diameter pipe was wrapped in packing tape so it would not stick to the cured part. Next, I attempted to insert this mandrel into the slide to hold the carbon fiber in place while it cured. However, the fit was too tight, so the fabric was torn and displaced. The carbon had to be scrapped once again and the glass slide cleaned thoroughly with isopropyl alcohol before the resin started to cure. Attempt number 3 involved once again applying epoxy resin to the fabric first. This time I wrapped the wetted out material around the pipe and attempted to insert this assembly into the slide. And once again, it failed completely. At this point, I thought that making a mold and casting the forged carbon insert separately might be the better method, but the second attempt had come very close to working, so I decided to start over once more with a slightly modified approach. I mixed up a fresh batch of epoxy resin. I inserted the forged carbon fabric into the slide, but first a piece of thin plastic was placed over the front so the material would go in more easily with fewer displaced fibers. The front plastic was easy to remove after the carbon was in place. Resin was poured in and worked into the fabric. Next, I tightly rolled a piece of the thicker Teflon-coated peel ply, taped up one end, and inserted it into the slide without disturbing the carbon fiber. Once the tape was removed, the peel ply could be unrolled and pressed against the carbon fiber. The central hole could then be filled to further compress the layup. First, I tried stuffing it with breather cloth, which just would not stay compressed. But paper towel ended up working perfectly. The central hole was filled with tightly packed paper, while the peel ply prevented the paper from getting stuck to the part. The excess carbon fiber protruding from the ends was wrapped in plastic to prevent it from shifting or getting stuck to anything. All excess resin was cleaned thoroughly from the outside of the glass slide with isopropyl alcohol, and the part was left to cure. Once fully cured, the excess carbon was rough trimmed with a diamond cutting wheel, and the peel ply and packing material were removed. A small sanding barrel on the rotary tool was used to grind the carbon fiber flush with the ends of the glass, and also to remove a small amount of material from the inside of the slide. A little hand sanding with 400 grit took the inside to a comfortable but grippy texture. The ends were further smoothed with a series of micromesh grits followed by polishing compound.